Hey people, welcome to my channel. If you have been here before, then welcome back. I know it's been a really long time since I've made a video, but I've been going through some mental health issues, and basically that's what I want to talk about in this video today. So yesterday I was discharged from a psychiatric hospital where I've been admitted for the past 2 weeks. I had what some might call a mental or nervous breakdown, and my therapist basically advised me that hospital would be the best place for me to go. I was burnt out, mentally and emotionally exhausted, and basically struggling to find a reason to continue living. So obviously when my therapist gathered the dark place that my mind was in, hospital was probably the only solution. The best way that I can describe it is that for a while now I've been digging this hole around myself, and basically it's been getting deeper and deeper and deeper as I haven't been dealing with problems and issues, past traumas, didn't really have coping mechanisms. Now the whole stress of the current situation in the world. And eventually it got to a stage where the hole was so deep that I was no longer able to get myself out of it. I just didn't have the energy or the ability to do so, and it felt like I was just going to stay there until I died. So obviously that's not a good place to be in, and it feels like this admission into the hospital was a rescue team coming in with a rope ladder to rescue me. And now I have the energy and the ability and knowledge to be able to get myself out. You know, that rope ladder is the knowledge that the things that they taught me while I was in the hospital, the time that I took away gave me the energy and the break that I needed so that I would be able to face it. But now it's up to me to put in the effort to be able to get myself out of this place. So it's obviously a journey. It's a process that you have to follow in order to get yourself better again, and that's where I am at the moment. I just wanted to share with everyone some of the things that I learned while I was in hospital. I think this could encourage some people that also suffer from mental disorders to get help yourself, to do some things, make some changes, you know, look at your medication maybe, or treatment options, therapy options, things like that, techniques and healthier coping mechanisms. But it can also help the family and friends of someone who suffers with a mental illness, because often, you know, family and friends that don't suffer with their mental health, they don't really understand what we go through. So I think it would be a good insight for those people as well. So firstly, the science behind depression. So there are two main reasons why someone could be depressed. The first one would be internal factors. This would obviously be being born with or inheriting a mental disorder from your parents. You know, some families have chronic disorders that are hereditary and running the whole family, such as heart disease or arthritis, high blood pressure, that kind of thing. My family personally, mental disorders and mental illnesses is something that most of my family suffer with. It's definitely hereditary, it's in our genes. So obviously that's one reason. And then the other reason would be external factors. This could be a single trauma that happened to you, like an assault, a car accident, losing a loved one, you know, loss and grief, that kind of thing. Also long-term or ongoing trauma, such as working in or living in a toxic environment, suffering in an abusive relationship, something like that. So either one of these things could cause depression. Okay, so there are three main chemicals in the brain that affect depression or have an effect on depression. It's serotonin, dopamine, and noradrenaline, or norepinephrine. It's the same thing. When you have depression, the first chemical to decrease is the serotonin, so that would be responsible for your emotional stability. Really past our house right now. That's really creepy. Okay, anyways. So the first thing that you will notice is your emotions changing. So you'll have irritability, mood swings, be emotional and tearful, maybe very snappy and angry, just generally moody. So that is the lack of serotonin that causes that. The second chemical that will decrease is dopamine. This will cause your motivation to go. So you will no longer want to get up out of bed in the mornings. You'll struggle to go to work or to school. You don't want to do any of the activities that you used to enjoy, hobbies and things like that. You just feel like you physically don't have the energy to do chores, run errands, anything like that. And then obviously one of the biggest issues is isolation. You tend to start withdrawing yourself socially from friends and family because you obviously, again, don't have the energy. You're just like chronically fatigued because of the lack of dopamine. So, and then the last chemical would be the norepinephrine or noradrenaline. That is responsible for your memory and concentration, focus, that kind of thing. So obviously a lot of people that suffer from depression and now have been for a while, have been in an episode for a while, they will say that they struggle to concentrate, they can't remember, like obviously it's normal, it's human to forget things or, not always to concentrate, but like if it's happening very regularly and you're constantly like forgetting things that you are doing or what you should have done or where you put something, or you're not concentrating and you even like skip maybe a stop street or a red light or something, like it can get pretty dangerous. Things like that where you're just generally struggling with your memory and your concentration, that usually does go with depression. So also you will become very accident prone because you're not concentrating on your surroundings, and often you'll have lots of bruises and cuts. I'm definitely prone to doing things like that, and it's because I'm not very mindful. I'm not concentrating on what I'm doing and where I'm going often. Alright, then the thing is, antidepressants help to increase and stabilize these chemicals again, but it does take a while. It's not like you're going to start taking an antidepressant today and immediately just feel better. Firstly, doctors usually will tell you it takes about 2 to 3 weeks for the medication to start working. And the first chemical it will affect is serotonin, which will start increasing. So your emotions will become more regular and stable. Your mood should lift, things like that. That's usually the first change that you will notice on an antidepressant. The second thing that will start increasing and regulating is the dopamine. So your motivation should start coming back, being able to take part in hobbies, activities, do chores, run errands, get up in the morning, things like that. But the thing is, a lot of research shows that unfortunately it does take 6 to 12 months, up to 12 months, for your brain chemistry to regulate itself up to a normal stabilized point once you've started antidepressants. So it could take a few months for this motivation to fully come back, and the thing that comes back last is your concentration and your memory. So it could take up to a year for that to return. So obviously a lot of the times people stop taking the antidepressants because they feel better, but they feel like it's also not really working because they're still struggling with memory or concentration, or they don't fully feel motivated yet. You need to give this medication time to work. It's not an instant fix, it's not a quick fix. It's something that you're going to probably take for at least 2 years. It obviously depends on the reason why you were depressed in the first place, what caused the depression. If it was a single traumatic event, then sometimes you will only have to take the antidepressants for 2 or so years. If it is a long-term trauma that you experienced, severe CPTSD, or it's a hereditary thing, it's in your genes, it is your brain that struggles to create the chemicals itself, then probably you're going to be on this medication for the rest of your life. You're going to need to take the antidepressants to help your brain create the chemicals that is needed for you to be able to function properly. This obviously is not a bad thing. If you think of it this way, there are so many different organs in your body. There's your lungs, your heart, kidneys, liver, etc. And then obviously your brain. It's also just another organ. So someone with diabetes, their liver isn't working properly. It's not creating insulin the way that it should be, and therefore they need to be on their insulin medication and sugar medication for the rest of their lives so that they can function properly. And sometimes their insulin won't be good, they'll have good days and bad days. Maybe they'll have to increase the insulin dose or change the dose, go back to the doctor every now and then and review the medication and treatment that they're on. Someone with asthma or chronic lung problems, they probably will have to be on an inhaler and maybe, like a cortisone medication long term, sometimes inhalers for the rest of their life in order to breathe on a daily basis. So also might have to review their medication, go for lung x-rays, chest x-rays, things like that. It's an ongoing treatment process. And that's exactly the same. If your lungs are not functioning properly or your liver is the one that's faulty, you have treatment for that. If your brain is the one that's faulty and not working properly, then you'll obviously have to have treatment for that. And the way that you would obviously treat a faulty brain would be to take your medication and do therapy. These are just things that we need for our brain to continue functioning properly. And as with any other organ problem or illness, there will be good days and there will be bad days. Along with depression, people usually have anxiety as well. These two disorders are like besties. They usually go together. You do get medication for anxiety, but most of these are in the benzodiazepine class, and these are very addictive. So it's not usually meant for long-term use, because you can get withdrawal symptoms if you try and get off them again. You get physically addicted to them. So obviously the better option that is preferable is for you to take your antidepressants, which are not addictive. Those are things that you can take for life, with therapy. And then for anxiety, there are 3 really good therapies that you get. You get CBT, DBT and ACT. I am currently doing CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, and DBT, which is dialectal behavioral therapy. These are both therapies that change, as suggested in the name, your behavior. So it challenges your negative thoughts, your irrational thoughts and beliefs, the way that you are critical of yourself. It works on your self-confidence and your self-esteem, things like that. So it's like a lot of exercises, brain exercises, physical exercises, things like that you have to. It makes you think and become more aware of yourself and your thoughts, and how your brain works, what your coping mechanisms are, what your triggers and your stresses are, the root cause for why you have all of these issues, dealing with that root cause. Was it childhood trauma, whatever the issue was, dealing with it and then figuring out ways how to cope now going forward when you are under stressful situations. Obviously I have a psychiatrist and a psychologist, having just come out of hospital, but I know that mental health is not always something that people can afford to pay for. Therapy can be quite expensive, so there are a lot of free options. You can download some CBT apps onto your phone, and these are quite helpful for you to keep track of your daily feelings, your emotions, your thoughts. You can journal, you can do a gratitude journal, a feelings journal, that kind of thing. I downloaded an app on Android called Woebot, like WOEBOT, which for me is quite helpful. I've just recently downloaded it. I've been using it for a few days and I'm enjoying it. But I know there are many CBT apps out there, so you can just find one that works for you and then see if that doesn't help you keep track of your progress. Other things that you could do is go Google CBT and DBT worksheets. There are many websites, psychological websites, therapy websites, that type of thing, that have got downloadable and printable worksheets. So worksheets that you can download and print and then complete them and fill them in, on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis. It just helps you to, as I said, look at your way of thinking, your way of coping, your stresses, your triggers, your thought patterns, all of that. So you can do it basically yourself. Obviously it does help if you can go to therapy and do these things with a professional, but if it's not possible, then there is a way that you can do them yourself. There's also obviously self-help books and cognitive behavioral therapy books and things like that you could buy, e-readers. Just go through them, and see what works for you, because ultimately anxiety is a behavioral and a thought issue, and so you need to change the root cause of the way that you deal with things in order for you to be able to change. So there are also apps for breathing techniques and exercises which are really good for anxiety. Especially look up abdominal breathing, because that's actually what you should be doing, and like the long exhaling breathing, that kind of thing. You can also watch YouTube videos, obviously, for like meditation and yoga, calming things, and mindfulness. Someone with anxiety like me really needs to work on mindfulness, because that is the biggest issue, is the fact that we are always stuck inside our heads with our racing thoughts. And mindfulness teaches you to be present consciously in every moment. You know, be aware of your surroundings, of the people, of what you are physically doing, where you are going, things like that. So practicing mindfulness techniques is also definitely a huge positive. As I said, for many people who suffer with a mental illness, it's going to be something that you might have to live with for the rest of your life. And there will be bad days. There's going to be times when you have triggers and stresses that pop up that's going to make it tougher for you to cope. But the thing is, if you are willing to put in the effort necessary, you know, on a daily and a weekly basis to look after your mental health, if you take your medication correctly the way that you should, if you keep continuing therapy, whether it's with someone or you're just doing your own home therapy, you know, just keep doing things that are going to help yourself to improve, then it is something that it will be manageable, and you can have a good quality of life, which is, you know, rich and fulfilling and satisfying. There's no reason for you to just be existing. You can live even with this mental illness. Then the last thing you need to remember is there is no such thing as permanent happiness. This is a unicorn concept. It's fake. It's something that society wants us to believe is achievable, but it is unrealistic. There will always be stress. You cannot live a stress-free life. There will always be bad days. There's going to be times when you have an argument with a loved one or somebody else that puts you in an irritable mood, or maybe you didn't sleep very well and now you just woke up grumpy. When, you know, you have a loss of a loved one, or you're grieving the end of a relationship, maybe you get fired at work. There's always going to be something that's happening in your life. It's impossible. You cannot live a completely stress-free life. And also, it's human nature to feel emotions. Even people that don't suffer with mental disorders and mental illnesses have the full range of emotions: anger, frustration, sadness, joy, excitement, fear, you know, whatever. You're not going to just always be happy and joyful. That is not realistic. It's not possible. So do not be so hard on yourself. Nobody is happy all the time. You're allowed to feel the entire range of emotions, because you are only human. And you need to allow yourself to feel these feelings, because no one is perfect and we are all a work in progress, and that's okay. So I think that's going to be it for me for today. Until next time, bye. First, start becoming depressed, you will notice a change in your emotions. You will struggle with things like irritability, mood swings. Sorry, there is a white van driving really slowly past our house right now. That's really creepy. Sleep very well and now you just woke up grumpy. Sorry, there's like 8 aeroplanes passing over our house right now. Okay, great. It's fun living near an airfield. Anyway, so